All right. What's going on, folks? My name is Michael Hoff, part of the Face Off Sports Network, and today we're giving you three quarterbacks to start, three quarterbacks to sit for Week 10 of the NFL season. I'll tell you, about 2 weeks ago, we hit on all three quarterbacks, all finished inside the top 12. Last week, we did get one, and then another one finished just outside the top 12. So let's give you some gems this week, shall we? We'll jump right in with our first quarterback of the weekend. It's going to be Mr. Sam Darnold of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, all three of these quarterbacks that I am picking to start are all on the road. Last week, Sam Darnold had his first 20-point game since week 4. Week 10, I'm expecting a repeat performance. The Jaguars lead the league in points allowed to quarterbacks, and they've allowed 20 points in 7 of their 9 games this season. Some of these numbers from the Jaguars a little bit eye-popping here. Listen to this one. They're allowing quarterbacks to complete 70.72% of their passes. That's the third highest in the league. Beyond that, Jaguars are also tied in allowing a league-high 2.1 touchdowns on a per-game basis. Man, might as well throw for yards too, right? They're allowing 278 passing yards on a per-game basis. That is the second highest. Lastly, when Darnold has played against teams in the top 10 in points allowed to quarterbacks, he's averaged 20.28 points on a per game basis. So to me, this is the mother of all slam dunks. It's not, you can't play every single bad quarterback against a bad defense. Actually, maybe we're going to test that at the end of this, but yeah, Sam Darnold's a slam dunk. Let's get to the next one, shall we? This one is Mr. Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, this game as well is on the road. Brock Purdy's coming off the bye week. Currently, he is 10th in scoring at the quarterback position. Prior to the bye week, Purdy had 3 straight games with 20-plus points scored. Those were games against teams who were average rank 15th in the league in points allowed to quarterback position. So he was playing against some stiffer competition. This one's going to be a little bit easier. He's going up against a Buccaneers team allowing the second most points to the quarterback position. For the Buccaneers, over the last 3 weeks, their pass defense has been especially bad. You thought the Jaguar stuff was bad. Get a load of this. Over the last 3 weeks, 40% of the fantasy points that the Buccaneers have allowed to quarterbacks this season have come in the last 3 weeks. That's a lot of points. So I like this. The Bucks are absolutely reeling defensively. They got a lot of injuries. Also, by the way, we've also got the return of Christian McCaffrey. So we've seen what Purdy's able to do without Christian McCaffrey. Like I mentioned before the bye, he had 3 straight games of 20-plus points. Now he's got CMC. We saw what happened last year with CMC in the huddle. Brock Purdy was a damn near MVP until the end of the season, until I believe that Christmas night game against the Baltimore Ravens. So, yeah, fire up Brock Purdy this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers without question. I mentioned earlier, you can't always play a bad quarterback against a bad defense. Well, I'm going to test that this time, though. But hear me out a little bit on this one. I'm going with a start here, and I'll preface this by saying, listen, maybe this is if you're in a 2-quarterback league. Maybe this is if you're in a super flex league. Keep your eye on Daniel Jones this weekend going up against the Carolina Panthers. Yes, it felt just as dirty for me to say it as it was for you to hear it. This game, though, by the way, just so you guys know, we do have a game in Germany. It's this one. That'll be in, Germany's getting they're getting a real gem from the NFL. But that being that as obey, the Panthers have had 6 games with 20-plus points allowed to the quarterback position. They're also one of 8 teams to not have a single game in which they've held a quarterback to less than 10 points. That's what really screams out to me that there could be some optimism here for Daniel Jones. While the season's been gross for Jones, he broke late last week. He did finish with 25.36 points. That was good for the 4th highest scoring quarterback on the week. And second game with 20 points or more. So, is Daniel Jones going to consistently be good? Obviously not. We can't trust him to do that. But I think we can trust him here in what is it's a good matchup against a bad defense. I like this matchup here. I think we get some rushing out of him as well. So to me, this is a Malik Neighbors game. This is a surprisingly Daniel Jones spot. Again, you got 4 teams on bye this week, so you might be in a position where you need a Daniel Jones. Or if you're in a 2 quarterback league, if you're in a super flex league, if you need a quarterback in a pinch, I'm just saying Daniel Jones has a good shot to deliver you another 20-point week, his second consecutive 20-point game of the season. It would be his third on the year, but that's going to do it as far as the starters. Let's get to the sits. Let's get to the bad news. The first one I have here, and this one hits me a little close to home because I am a supporter of his this season. It's Mr. Joe Flacco of the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Buffalo Bills. Listen, Flacco was named a starter a couple weeks ago, but it hasn't been great for him, the matchups. Not last week, not this week. Last week, he went up against the Minnesota Vikings, who were allowing the 12th fewest points to quarterbacks. That was on Sunday Night Football. He winds up with 5.06 points. Not great, Bob. Now Flacco's going up against an Eagles defense that is allowing the 6th fewest points to the quarterback position. While the Eagles did allow 20-plus points last week, they have 43 points. They've allowed 43 points to quarterbacks over the last 3 weeks. That's the 5th lowest. So even with that 20-point game, the 2 weeks prior to that, they were pretty dominant against the quarterback position in terms of fantasy points allowed. Eagles are also in the top half of the league in 2.8 sacks on a per game basis. That kind of scares me a little bit when we're talking about a Joe Flacco. I know Anthony Richardson's a backup quarterback, and he prides himself on being able to run. Joe Flacco's not really able to run that much. Bit of a statue back there. So I think between the Eagles not allowing a lot of points to the quarterback position, them being able to get after the quarterback, I think this is another bad week for Joe Flacco. From an NFL perspective, this puts the Colts in a bad position because now they're going to get 2 bad weeks from Joe Flacco in bad matchups, and they're going to probably put Richardson back out there, and they're going to get the same sort of deal. We'll see what happens. But this week, though, you're sitting Joe Flacco. Maybe you're starting Daniel Jones instead of Joe Flacco if you're in a 2-quarterback league. I promise I'll shut up about Daniel Jones. Let's get to our next sit of the week. It's going to be Mr. Drake Maye of the New England Patriots. He is going to Chi-Town to play the Chicago Bears. Listen, Drake Maye has been a bit of a pleasant surprise here. In 5 games this season, Maye has 2 games with 20-plus points scored. He's averaged 18 points per start. Despite that optimism, though, this is a sit week for me and Mr. Drake Maye. Again, I mentioned the Bears. The Bears are not only allowing the fewest points to the position, but they are the only team in the NFL to allow less than 100 points to the position. To no one's surprise, they led the league with 4 games where the opposing quarterback scored less than 10 points. 4 games where they've held a quarterback to less than 10 points. That's not good either. So, and they've also, lastly, they have only allowed 5 touchdown passes to opposing quarterbacks this season. So, all that in mind, I do like Drake Maye. I think he'll give you some good stuff here and there. Maybe more of a DFS play every now and again. But for week 10, for your fantasy football lineups, he ain't it. So you're sitting Joe Flacco. You're sitting Drake Maye, our last quarterback that we're going to sit playing on Sunday Night Football. It's going to be Mr. Matthew Stafford going up against the Miami Dolphins. Despite the Rams allowing back-to-back games for 20, the Dolphins, that is, I apologize. Besides the Dolphins allowing 20-plus points to quarterbacks in back-to-back games, they're still allowing the second fewest points to the position. So even with 2 games in which they decided to, allow a bunch of points, they're still holding their own. That just goes to show you, surprisingly enough, how good the Dolphins have been against opposing quarterbacks. They've had 3 weeks in which they've allowed less than 10 points to the quarterback position. And you know what? The other thing is Matthew Stafford, not that consistent this year. Listen, you want to chalk it up to Puka Nacua. You want to chalk it up to Cooper Kupp. Be that as it may, he has not been consistent this year, and he's going up against a defense that has been pretty good up until the last 2 weeks. While he has had 1 game with 20-plus points, Matthew Stafford has had 3 games with less than 10 points. So when he's been bad, and I think he's bad in week 10. So those are my 3 starts. Those are my 3 sits. Again, the starts are going to be Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Daniel Jones, again, the whole thing with Daniel Jones, the disclaimer there is if you're in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex, or if you're really in a deep enough league and if you're in a position where you need to start him, because again, 4 teams are on bye, he's my last start of the week. My sits, Joe Flacco, Drake Maye, Matthew Stafford. Those are my 3 sits. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. Feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, feel free to ask any questions in the comments. I will answer them. Also, feel free to check out all the other great content that we have here on this channel. But until next time, stay thirsty, be kind to one another. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Cheers.